some more interesting facts from this period. We're going to get into women pirates. Now, as I mentioned, pirates have a certain subversive appeal, and they operate beyond the reach of traditional power and authority, the family, the state, the church. Women share a rough solidarity with the maritime outlaw life. Under the Jolly Roger, they attain equality and many freedoms that are simply unimaginable in traditional society. Now, these utopian features, this proto-socialist dream, is crucial to the recruitment and replication of the Pirate Confederation. All right, now, as I mentioned, I want to get a little bit into women pirates. I want to talk a little bit about Anne Bonny and Mary Read. Now, these two women inspire ballads. The press has a field day with them. They become legends, living legends. They are, in fact, cross-dressing warrior women well-trained in the ways of war. They curse, they swear, and they kill like any other pirate. Now, let's get a little bit into Anne Bonny. Now, Bonny is the bastard daughter of a prominent Cork attorney, and she becomes her father's housemaid after her mother's death, and there are tales of abuse and incest, and the child, Anne Bonny, has an extremely wild temper. She stabs a number of people at a very young age, and she has a fondness for blades. Now, she is disinherited when she elopes with a sailor, and she soon tires of her husband and runs away and hooks up with a Calico Jack. He's known as Calico Jack because of his striped pants. And they become lovers and become a pirate team. They steal a sloop anchored in the harbor of New Providence, I believe, and put together a crew of oddballs and misfits and capture a series of Dutch vessels. She actually targets the slave trade. Anne Bonny, known as Queen Anne of the West Indies, is very much anti-slavery. Now, Queen Anne Bonny has an unusual aspect to her. She wears undergarments sewn from a Jolly Roger flag so that death can constantly kiss her ass. I kid you not. She actually wears undergarments made from Jolly Rogers so that the devil can develop a taste for her sweet cunny. These are her words, not mine, folks. Now, this team of Calico Jack and Anne Bonny board a number of prize vessels, and upon one of these boarded vessels, she spots a delicately handsome young boy. She becomes extremely attracted to this new crew member and tries her hand at seduction. Well, she discovers that her favorite, Mary Read, is actually a young Englishwoman in drag. Now, Mary Read has spent a lifetime at sea. She is, in fact, born at sea. She is a lifetime cross-dresser, and she becomes a cabin boy on a warship at a very tender age. She serves in the infantry and cavalry in drag, and as I mentioned, there's an attempt at seduction, and her secret is revealed. Now, Anne tells Calico Jack, her mate, not only in pirate business, but in the bedroom, and Calico Jack invites Mary Read to join them. They essentially become a menage a trois. They have a three-way relationship because Mary not only joins the crew, but joins the bed of Anne and Calico Jack. Now, these two women pirates are first-rate buccaneers. They fight like wildcats. They never shirk from battle. They're always resolute and ready for action, and they are often found with pistols, cutlasses, and axes in hand, screaming like banshees. Now, both are eventually captured because, as I mentioned, Anne targets the slave trade. She's constantly boarding slave vessels and freeing enslaved individuals. And this pisses off the governor of Jamaica, who hires a privateer sloop to capture them. And they're eventually captured around October 1720. But since Mary Read and Bonnie are women, they are tried separately. Now, they are convicted and sentenced to hang. But Calico Jack has been very busy in the bedroom, and the women plead their bellies. They are both pregnant by Mr. Jack. And under British law, the court cannot take the life of an unborn child by the execution of the mother, so they are temporarily saved from the gallows. Now, they give birth in prison. Mary dies of fever while incarcerated, but Anne disappears from history. Her fate is unknown. Now, many believe she was paroled or managed to buy her way out since her father was a prominent attorney, but no one really knows for sure the fate of Anne Bonny. All right, now I want to get a little bit into the South China Seas, because there's an incredibly interesting character who's a little later in history. She's around 1800 or so, known as Mrs. Chang. Now, Mrs. Chang is essentially becomes the queen of the South Sea pirates. Upon the death of her husband, she seizes power and commands the largest fleet in the pirate confederation. She wins the acceptance, the cooperation, and the loyalty of over 50,000 people under her charge. Now, there are some kinky aspects to this Mrs. Chang, because she marries her own adopted son. Now, her adopted son just happens to have been the homosexual lover of her dead husband, and he's 15 years her junior. Her adopted son and husband is 15 years her junior, and she takes an unusual tactic. She keeps her new husband in female attire and forces him to adapt a female persona. This is a way of displaying that she is, in fact, in charge. She has the cojones. She has the stones. She has the power. Now, Mrs. Chang issues a code of laws that are short and severe and strictly enforced. There is no rape involved. There is no pilfering from the common fund. There is no stealing from the common fund. These are capital offenses punished by extremely horrible death. Now, this sense of discipline makes her a great leader. She is intrepid in attack, desperate in defense, and unyielding when outnumbered. She's a great military commander. Now, she sets up financial and military structures that are very, very sophisticated. Now, heisting a ship is but one dimension of her massive financial operations. Now, she plans attacks far in advance, and she's very systematic. And boarding a ship is only one aspect. She is interested in plundering villages, markets, forts, and ransom plays a high part in her financial scheme. She also offers a protection racket. She escorts vessels. She issues certificates, and if you pay your fee and have your certificate, if you're boarded, you're left in peace to go on your merry way. Now, as I mentioned, she's a great military leader who deploys her forces with style up and down the Chinese coast. She has coordinated offenses. She's brilliant. One of her pirate junks is worth 3 naval vessels. She overpowers the provincial army and navy, and she rules with a sense of justice, because these pirates are far less corruptible than the official Chinese rulers. The people love her. She becomes a very popular figure during this point in time, which is around 1800 to about 1810, give or take. Now, as I mentioned, she becomes the queen of the South Sea pirates with over 50,000 subjects under her charge. she outperforms, outmaneuvers the Chinese army, the Chinese navy, and the Chinese state officials. And she is loved, as I mentioned, by the common people. Now, she is in fact so successful that China asks for help from the European powers. And the British and Portuguese begin to assist the Chinese government. Now, she's actually smart enough to see the writing on the wall, because the opium trade is being disrupted by this great queen of the pirates, Mrs. Chang. And she knows that the full power of the European nations is going to stomp on her head. So she negotiates a retirement. She retires. She abdicates, so to speak, and she allows the opium trade to continue undisturbed, basically because she has little choice. And she lives out her days with her cross-dressing husband/wife in luxury. Quite an unusual, quite an interesting character, Mrs. Chang. Sadly, she's not very well known in the West. She barely, if ever, gets a mention in pirate books or documentaries. So I thought I'd take a moment to tell you about this amazing Mrs. Chang, this queen of the China South Seas, who rules a vast slew of pirates during this period around 1800 to 1810. Now, I mentioned I'm going to go into the black pirates. All right, now, pirates basically go against the strict racial and gender logic, the codes of Europe.